one last question before we end it is just about the Iranian retaliation. I've been hearing stories that it's going to happen before the election. Can you confirm that or tell us what you think?
I've heard the same reports, and I think it's quite possible. I think clearly they are going to retaliate. So, yeah, we'll see. And
any indication on what the targets might be or the size of the attack? Did they say that it's going to be a large attack?
Who knows? But I think it's clear. I mean, we did our initial kind of assessment on Monday about the Israeli attack on Iran and said it looked like it was a pathetic failure. And as more information comes out, I've become more confident in that assessment. It clearly they failed. And it's also clear, again, as Ted Postel, I think, has pointed out, it says that they can't do it. It's not just Israel, kind of muffed this attack. They clearly don't have the capabilities. He didn't think they had ahead of time, but this attempted attack proved that they don't have the capabilities. They just can't do it. They don't have the missile force, and these aircraft are highly vulnerable to Iranian air defense, and so they can't get near. And then again, aircraft-fired missiles are not nearly as powerful as ballistic missiles. So they have, they have much smaller warheads. So even if some of those get through, and some of them did, but they did very minor damage because they're actually very small missiles. He said they've picked a war that they can't win, and I think Israel's picked another war, a second war, of course, in Lebanon that they can't win, and they're clearly losing. So they're now engaged in two wars that they're bound to lose. Now this is they're in a real serious trouble. Israel
and the U.S. won't be able to save them. Right.
No, the U.S. clearly tried to help them out on that attack in Iran. I think they needed something like 9 air refueling tankers, and the U.S. supplied them. But again, the U.S. would have the same problems. They've got these aircraft, but you can't. Again, it's so fun if you don't have any air defense. You just go over and you just drop your big bombs, and you smash up the enemy, and that's it. That's been the story up until recently. That's what Israel and the U.S. has done to other countries, but they can't now. They've come up against real air defense, and so the U.S. can't do it either. Now, of course, the U.S. has more missiles. They could if they launched all their missiles, but then they would just be naked, vis-a-vis China and Russia. So they really can't contribute very much. Even if the U.S. went all in, I don't think they could do damage, of course, to Iran, but they would fail too. They just don't have the military forces capable of dealing with an adversary like Iran. That's not what they've what the American military forces are designed for.
It's unbelievable how Israel would.
No, it is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, because this is a fight that Israel wants, and they can't even do it.
I think I know, it's amazing. Well, it's just obviously it's a terrible miscalculation. I think there was, again, I think there's no question that Netanyahu underestimated, and probably the IDF too. I think the IDF had a more realistic assessment, but I think they underestimated the Iranians and overestimated their own abilities. And then they always thought, well, we get into trouble, then we got the U.S. And I think the U.S. was trying to tell, let's not do this. But it's just like, you
got this, champ. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But we're like, ooh.
They're in serious trouble. Israel is.
Do you think they know that? They have to, right?
I'm sure some of them do. I think there's no question of that. Some of them do. But I think people like Netanyahu, they're just so deluded, drunk on their own power and bloodlust and ambition that they can't see straight.
Yeah. Well,
if he was realistic, he would have called the whole thing off and declared victory after the killing of Sinwar.
Right.
I mean, he really had an opportunity to do that, and he would have been very popular. And he just missed the boat. It's because he overestimated himself and Israel's forces.
Yeah. Wow, Dad, it's interesting times we're living in. The whole world is changing. I just feel like when when my son is looking at a world map, it's going to look different than the one that I looked at when I when I was in school. I just everything is shifting, everything's changing. It's exciting, but it's also terrifying. I'm kind of excited to live through and see this and witness this, but at the same time, it's just wow. What can happen? What can happen here? What can happen around the world? I hope everybody stays safe. I hope things don't go nuclear and we're able to resolve things peacefully. But clearly, there's going to be a lot of chaos up ahead.